In a world where the line between success and failure can be measured in fractions of a point, three gentlemen, nay, heroes, have put aside their differences to combine forces and produce the greatest fantasy football draft kit of all time. Many said that it couldn't be done. Many said it shouldn't be done. But the desire to be the best, the passion to rise above the rest, has pointed these podcasters on a one-way path to fulfill their destiny. This summer, from the creative minds behind the fantasy footballers, comes a blockbuster multimedia extravaganza, the likes of which has never been seen. Video profiles, stat projections, tier breakdowns, printable cheat sheets, rookie rankings, sleepers, busts, and so much more. Mike Wright calls it the one draft tool you can't miss. Andrew Holloway says it's changed his life. And Jason Moore said, when I saw all the content in the Ultimate Draft Kit, I fell to my knees and wept. I wept like a baby. Don't miss this opportunity. Go to www.ultimatedraftkit.com today and secure your copy today.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the Play Draft Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Tuesday, July 25th, 2017. And we are the Fantasy Footballers, show number 401.
We are?
We are the Fantasy Footballers.
We are that sounded like one statement. We are the Fantasy Footballers, show 401.
We are the Fantasy Footballers, comma.
Thank
Show
you.
401 begins now. Andy, Mike, and Jason, welcome in.
I have an announcement for the Foot Clan.
You have an announcement.
Foot Clan, you are my weakness.
Oh, I see what you did there. I'm weeping.
Okay. That's a little Game of Thrones reference from last night's, or 2 nights ago. We will do a Game of Thrones show after the show, either today or on Thursday.
Stay tuned.
Here's the thing. We've got some updates coming to the UDK. Some of the player profile videos, as we often do, we are updating Mike Wallace and Jeremy Macklin, Ezekiel Elliott, a few other guys. So
Tyreek Hill.
Just updated some of our dynasty rankings on the UDK. So for those of you who have access, lots of updates coming your way. New consistency charts here on the horizon.
I hope someday. We've been promising.
All right, today's episode's a good one. We have the AFC South breakdown. First, we're going to jump into, in lieu of a quick question, we're going to play a little Keep Trade Cut.
Keep Trade Cut.
All right, Keep Trade Cut, Randall, Cobb, Eric Decker, Jonathan Stewart. Brooks picked these names out, and apparently we all have different takes. So Keep Trade Cut, Randall, Cobb, Eric Decker, Jonathan Stewart. Who wants to kick it off? Do you want me to go?
Yes.
All right. I'm keeping Jonathan Stewart. I'm trading Eric Decker, and I'm cutting Randall Cobb, and I'll tell you why. I value the running back position and the idea of getting depth in Jonathan Stewart. You know, right now, Jonathan Stewart and Jamal Charles are back-to-back in fantasy drafts. They're late 8th-round draft picks. And you look at Eric Decker. I want to trade Eric Decker because I think there is a lot of love for him out there, and I understand why. But you're bringing a player who's coming off of an injury into a new offense. Last year, Titans receivers averaged 9.9 catches per game as a unit. That's under 10 receptions total from the wide receiver position. That's second to last in the league. They passed the third least in the NFL. And so for me, that just makes Decker too scary to be the keep here.
He played 3 games.
That's part of what makes it scary. He's in a new offense, and he was injured, and he's coming off an injury. Now he's in a place that doesn't pass a lot, and you're talking about a TD dependency. We're going to talk more about the Titans later on, but I'm going to keep Stewart, trade Decker, cut Cobb.
Well, I'll hop in here because my cut is your keep. To me, Jonathan Stewart's just – look, I realize where he's going in the draft versus what he should do. He should outperform his running back rank, but I don't think that there's any true upside because last year he was the 23rd running back in half-point scoring and standard, and he's going to be less than this year. He's going to be less than the role he had last year. No, not less than in the rank, less than on the field. He's going to have fewer carries because Christian McCaffrey is going to, eat into those. I'm not a huge McCaffrey supporter in the sense that I think both these guys are really going to be splitting the workload, but I can't get myself to invest in a less than version of last year's Jonathan Stewart, and I want to keep Eric Decker just because he's such a touchdown machine paired with another efficient touchdown guy, but I'm like Andy, I'm not convinced yet until I see something, on film in camp that he's back, he's healthy, reports are good. So I'm going with Cobb. I'm going to keep Cobb, trade Decker, and cut Stewart. Last year you have a wide receiver 1 in Devontae Adams, who we have said for a while, Devontae Adams stinks, and in some ways he's not an elite wide receiver to me, but he was a wide receiver 1 because of Aaron Rodgers. Randall Cobb has been a wide receiver 1 before. If the pendulum just swings and the touchdowns go to Cobb, I will take the quarterback upside with Aaron Rodgers.
We saw Cobb as a wide receiver 1 through the first 7 weeks last year. It was close for me between those two, so good pick.
So I missed the trade and the cut.
I trade Decker. I cut Jonathan Stewart.
All right, I'm keeping Eric Decker.
I traded him to you,
and I gladly take him. He is,
of course, you keep Eric Decker.
Yes, of course.
The
I keep
less
Eric
games
Decker.
played total in the last
You're
12 months. They're the only players.
12 months. Okay, we'll talk about Jonathan Stewart. He hasn't played a full season since 2011. Eric Decker got hurt last year.
Surprised you don't love him then.
No, but Jonathan Stewart and Eric Decker's coming off an injury. Every single week, Jonathan Stewart is coming off of an injury. That's how frequent he gets hurt. Eric Decker, I don't hold the touchdown efficiency against Eric Decker. He's going to Mariota, who last year was unbelievably efficient throwing touchdowns. Eric Decker in the last 6 years, 13% of his receptions are touchdowns. And this is not a 1 or 2 year sample. That's who he is. 51 touchdowns over the last 6 years, and he only played 3 games last year. I'm trading Cobb because there's still suckers like Jason who are buying into the pendulum swing as a possibility. No, not really. I think that's in the realm of possibilities. And I'm cutting Stewart. I don't buy into this. He's keeping all the carries he had last year. You don't spend a top 10 pick on a running back to give 250 carries to the veteran.
So we have 3 completely different picks. I'm a little surprised, someone who values running backs like you, Mike, that you would go the Decker direction, but hey, we're going to talk a lot about the Titans on today's show, going to break down the AFC South teams, so very much looking forward to that conversation, which will start here in just a minute. Before we talk about that, I have a couple of exciting things to break down for listeners. First, there are a few days left for the 2017 Podcast Awards, and so if you enjoy the podcast, you want to help us out, take a couple minutes, go to footclanvote.com and nominate us for the People's Choice and the Best Sports and Recreation Podcast for 2017.
Do it.
And we would really appreciate it.
Do it.
All right. We did have Show 400 on Saturday. Show 400 in our history.
Smashing success.
Yeah, and a big credit to Judge Giamatti over there who cut together about 11 minutes of our greatest hits, misses maybe. I don't
know
hard to say. I never had so much reaction into the
spread your legs.
The spreading the legs comment.
I was listening back because
that was funny,
and that one caught my wife very off guard. She said, "Wait, what did he say?" I was like, "Hold on, there was a faux pas that happened."
You expect that from the Wizard of Grammar over here, but all right. So I thought it would be fun before we talk AFC South. I thought it would be fun to. I polled the Foot Clan. I polled the listeners. And I basically gave them 12 questions of which footballer would you choose. I mean, 400 episodes in, you've got to know us pretty well. And so who would you choose for these various interesting things that you could choose one of us for, and only one of us?
And you told Mike and I to stay out.
I told Mike, I don't know the answers. I posted it, And then I handed it all over to Brooks, and I said, Brooks, you write down who wins. Who wins these ones? Who's chosen? All right, so here's an example, all right? We'll start with this one. Which footballer would you choose to help you change a flat tire?
Well, the question is, Jason, can you change a tire?
I sure can. Done it many times, but I'm sure you're surprised.
I actually am very surprised.
Yeah, I've changed a tire too. So which footballer did the Foot Clan choose to help them change a tire?
Well, the Foot Clan is surprised also, Jason. You got last on this one.
I would expect nothing
So
less.
who won that one?
The winner is Mike.
Yes!
49% of the vote.
Okay.
Mike Wright.
Mike Wright.
You
would
have chosen wisely because I can change your tire.
All right, we can make predictions on
You know what
this.
else I can do? I can change your battery.
Wow. Yeah.
That's above
You know who-
my.
I was going to say, Jason tried to help my wife change a battery when I was
True story.
stuck watching the kids. He drove up there and
I helped take care of it. Fixed nothing, but Andy came and fixed the problem the next day. So you are a wise listener base, Foot Clan.
all right, number 2. Which footballer would you choose to help you, or I'm sorry, to babysit your children, to babysit your kids?
Ooh.
What do you guys think?
I'm going with Jason.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, that would be the right pick.
He's a clown.
All right.
Cheer my kids up.
Who won that one?
The winner is Andy.
Oh,
The responsible one.
Yeah.
Dad, of course.
56%.
How did we not assume it would be Dad?
56% of the vote. What was the
56
next closest?
Mike with 25. Jason
Jason's
19.
Left
It's
off.
not going well.
All right, here's a fun one.
It's going to be some hurt
Which
feelings.
footballer would you choose to take over as the voice of Siri on your phone?
Oh, I'm taking me.
Yeah, I took you as well. I answered these myself. I took you as well.
Okay. Who
The dulcet
who'd they
tones.
pick? Who'd the Foot Clan pick?
Well, Jason, you should have picked yourself, man.
Yeah.
39%. Jason is the winner.
Congratulations.
That's probably just because of the voice of public opinion. They want that as Siri.
No one wants that.
No one. How do I get to the local Albertsons?
I'm sorry, I can't help you right now.
All right, number 4. This was a fun one. Which footballer would you choose to take with you as the third wheel on a first date?
Oh, man. I'm such a good wingman.
There's no way Mike loses
No,
this
there's
one.
no way Mike's losing this. It's 75% is
What
my
is it?
guess.
Mike is the winner.
Yes.
47%.
Oh.
Foot Clan,
That's pretty good. I mean, 47%.
Your
is
date will be
dominant.
so successful.
How would you help somebody?
Oh, I give the best advice.
Yeah, good. All right, here we go. Here's a fantasy one. Who would you pick to help you pick your lineup for week 16?
This is the one that matters.
16, I know.
This is where my feelings are hurt.
So which footballer do you pick to help you with your lineup for week 16?
You guys have a guess? Or
Yeah, just tell
go.
us, Brooks.
Let's go.
Just tell us.
Jason, 50%.
Yeah, as I said, we have some great, smart listeners out there.
All right, which footballer do you want to be stranded with in the wilderness?
I'm going to
Who'd
go
they
with
pick,
Andy.
Brooks?
Yeah, I'll go Andy.
Mike Wright, 62%.
That is a big one. You
Yeah,
come
well,
across as an outdoorsman, apparently.
It's the
It's
hair.
just the look.
It's the hair. A beard means you can handle yourself outdoors. Who do you pick to defend you in court? Which
This one-
footballer?
This one is the biggest winner of them all.
Oh, if it is, then I'm guessing it's Andy.
Go.
You are correct.
Yes.
66%. Andy Holloway.
It's all those Judge Giamatti cases you've been
take care
winning
of
lately.
business. Take care of business. All right.
But
Who-
your entire strategy really relies on just complimenting the judge. I don't know if that'll work in the court of law.
We'll do our best. All right. Who do you take on a road trip with you? Which footballer?
Ooh, Jason.
Mike Wright.
Oh, me.
There you
49%.
All right. Which footballer do you take with you on a bank robbery?
Oh, that's got to be Mike.
That's not Jason.
I bet it's you.
Oh, yeah, you got a neck tattoo. I mean, come on. I'm taking – this is a bank robbery. Like, you got to strike some fear
That
into
means
people.
I'm easily identifiable.
That's true.
Which means you go down and they don't. So who did they pick?
Mike Wright. 54%.
I'm not sure how I feel about that one,
All right,
America.
here's one. Which footballer do you pick to explain to you how babies are made?
Oof, that's got to be me. I'll
Did
make
Jason win that
enough
one?
mistakes during that conversation where you'll just be entertained.
Who was it?
Jason Moore.
Oh.
50%.
50%. Okay.
50%?
All right, two more, and then we're into the AFC South preview. Which footballer do you take? Do you pick to take over at quarterback for your
better be
favorite
Andy.
NFL team?
Oh, has to
Otherwise
be
you have
Andy.
failed.
Yeah.
Andy Holloway.
Yeah.
57.
All right, last one.
Wait, that one's only 57?
That's high.
That should be 100%.
Yeah, it should be.
Oh, I
But
got you.
most people have not watched
Wait,
us throw.
hold on. Who was second on the quarterback one?
That's Mike.
Mike. All right. Sorry, Jay.
The wily veteran.
Which footballer did the Foot Clan choose to be stuck in a small room with for 48 hours?
This should be none of us. That's the correct answer.
Who'd they pick?
Mike Wright.
There you go.
This one's pretty close. Mike 38%.
Oh.
Andy 32.
Oh.
Jason 30.
Yeah, I am not the one you want there. I'm
That's
way too farty.
noxious gases.
It says small
All
room.
right, it's time to move on.
Let's get divisional.
We are a football show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a
worth
little
it.
fun.
It's
I wanted to
fan
know how
service.
people, they get to know you after a while. Apparently, I can defend you in court and take care of your kids. Maybe throw a football. All right,
Yeah,
let's
you're
start.
the ultimate dad.
That was all dad stuff. Yeah. You can't be trusted in court.
Who
All
would
right.
you pick to remind you to change your underpants every day?
All right.
Andy Holloway.
Houston. Let's talk about the Houston Texans, 9-7 last year. Won the division at 9-7. This year, you talk about I mean, the question for me, the headliner for me is the quarterback position. Last year, obviously, Brock Osweiler finished at the bottom of the league in basically any category you can imagine from the quarterback perspective. Last year was just bad, but this year, now you just knocked Julio Jones down.
Sorry,
on the
Julio.
desk. Tom Savage, Deshaun Watson are the quarterbacks in play in Houston. I just wonder if the recipe for success in Houston is going to stay the exact same. This is a team that led the league with almost 26 carries a game. It was not an efficient offense. And I want to know what you guys think about the main pieces in Houston this year, fantasy-wise, and really what can fantasy owners expect to change from last year? Is there reason for enthusiasm about a guy like Lamar Miller or the tight ends who had such a large target share or the wide receivers who didn't have such a large target share? So what do you guys think?
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, there is reason for optimism. There's two big changes in this offense, I think, that will make an impact. One is Brock Osweiler leaving, and as we studied for this specific show, we saw how much was truly on Brock. Not everything can be blamed on Brock, but there was a lot. Like, Mike, you had some hot tight end stat,
Yes.
percentage target numbers that showed it. That's not the Texans. That's not the Bill O'Brien scheme. That was Brock Osweiler targeting the tight ends like crazy. And so part of it is that. And then the other part is the offensive coordinator. I know the change kind of happened a little bit earlier last season where the play calling was Bill O'Brien. But their offensive coordinator's gone now. So they've got Bill O'Brien running the show. He's saying, look, if we're going down, we're going down with me. He has been a much higher producing offensive coordinator than the guy he's replacing right now. So there is reason to believe that the offense could be more productive, especially when you look at how inefficient they were. There's really nowhere to go but up. That's good for Hopkins, good for Lamar Miller.
Yeah, I went on Twitter this morning. I didn't even know we were talking about the AFC South, and I was mostly just trying to inflame Jason, posting some Lamar Miller stats. And we've talked a lot about Gurley. We've talked a lot about Lamar Miller. Both of them are players that were highly inefficient last year, high volume. A lot of what they did mirrored one another. And Lamar Miller in this offense, first year was last year. High quantity of carries, but this is an offense where I looked this up earlier. One rushing touchdown every 68 carries. That is the worst.
Not good.
That is the worst in the league. And Mike looked this up earlier too. Houston has a very low quantity of inside the 5 carries from the running back position.
What I was just going to throw out for Lamar Miller, and while he was inefficient, his volume still did carry him through. He was a running back 2 or better in 10 and 14 games, but he was only an RB1 3 times just because the touchdowns were not there. Lamar Miller carried the ball 15 times inside the 10. That's one less carry than Tim Hightower. I mean, they could not get inside the 10. The offense was not strong enough, and the question is, can Deshaun Watson or Tom Savage improve on that just slightly? Because I don't think you need a huge upgrade at the quarterback position to improve the running game.
You're
for
still
Texans.
the recipe's still going to be the same. And yes, maybe they are improved to some degree on the efficiency, a few more opportunities. They did draft Deontay Foreman in the 3rd round. We saw Lamar Miller early in his career with Miami, straight line runner, speed, big playability. The big plays weren't there last year. Same problem with Todd Gurley, by the way. No big plays. Lamar Miller couldn't make those big plays, big touchdowns. I worry about a change. Like if you want to lock him in as a 2, you're going to get it. That's not the problem for me.
Right.
I just don't know if there's nothing to that offense that makes me say, I feel like if you made an argument for Lamar Miller improving this year, you've got to make a similar argument for, DeAndre Hopkins taking a leap because you have more opportunities for that offense down in the red zone. I mean, they were the worst team in the league, I think, with receptions per touchdown at the wide receiver position.
But here's what I'll say about Hopkins. He's a career 58.2% catch. That's what his catch percentage is. Sorry, I said that.
No,
poorly.
I got you. I'm with you.
Last year was sub 52% because of Brock Stinky.
Yeah, the Brock effect.
But and he had 150 targets last year. If you give him his career catch percentage, he only bumps up to 87 receptions. Now, when Hopkins was dominant in 2015,
didn't he have like 190?
He had 192 targets.
Yeah.
I went and looked back, and even that year, Antonio Brown and Julio Jones had more. But I went back in 2014, the highest target total, 184 to Demaryius Thomas. 2013, 181 to Pierre Garçon. In 2012, there was 3 guys who had 192 or better, and that was Calvin, Reggie Wayne, and Brandon Marshall. And then back in 2011, Roddy White, target leader, down at 180. So just historically speaking, 190-plus targets is not the regular, and that's what Hopkins needed to be such a high-level fantasy producer. Is he a great, possibly elite-level talent? Yes, I completely agree with that, but I don't think that he's going to see the passing volume he needs.
Yeah, and that's been the problem. This is a team that averaged 0.4 touchdowns from the wide receiver position per game. That's not
that's poor.
That's problematic.
It can go up.
It can go up, but again, like you said, they won the division. This is not talking about a team that needs to come in and necessarily make a monster change. J.G. Watt comes back. I think there's concern.
Now, for the people who are holding out hope for the Mad Hatter, C.J. Fedorowicz or Ryan Griffin. So last year, those two tight ends accounted for 28% of Houston's targets. I mean, that's a pretty high share. You go back to 2015, and those two fellas, granted Ryan Griffin missed some time, accounted for 9% of the targets. 2014, those two guys plus Garrett Graham, who was the leading tight end on the team, 11%. So what Jason was referencing is this doesn't sound like it's a Bill O'Brien scheme where we want to feed the tight end targets. This sounded like Brock Osweiler was
checking down,
was a coward and would not throw it up to Hopkins.
Not only that, but his checking down, if you will, it was a problem for the running backs as well because a lot's been made of Lamar Miller was inefficient, only 6.1 yards per reception, but it's okay. Well, yeah, but he was the best at the running back position on that team. It's like, okay, sure, he was inefficient. So was Alfred Blue was 3.3, and that's a guy who the year prior without Brock Osweiler was 7.3 yards per reception. So Brock being gone is going to be good. Hopkins, I agree completely. He's not going to have the targets to rebound to 2015. It's just not going to happen. Now, will some of those tight end targets go his way? He have a better season than he did last year? Certainly. But he's being severely overdrafted. He is the 12th wide receiver being drafted off the board right now as a wide receiver 1. I can't imagine him returning that value this year. I feel like you're drafting his ceiling.
Playing in a division with the Colts, with the Titans, who should have a very good offense again, you wonder if they're going to be put in a position to have to stretch the offense and whether they can do it or not.
Who starts week 1 at the quarterback position?
I think it's Savage. I think it'll be
Savage.
I don't think Watson's going to win it in preseason. I don't. Before we move on and talk about the Titans, gentlemen, I want to talk about Pristine Auction, the supporter of today's show.
Yes.
Love Pristine Auction. Right now on the homepage, you can find hundreds of daily auctions on autographed, authentic sports memorabilia. There is an Odell Beckham Jr. signed Giants full-size helmet with a visor on the homepage. There is a Carson Wentz signed full-size Speed Ice helmet. So this is the white helmet with the silver wings. Yeah, they've got a lot of unique helmets and things like that. Autographed, authentic, amazing sports memorabilia. You got some Drew Brees gear on there, Bo Jackson. And then if you're into baseball, you got the Buster Posey jersey on the homepage. Hundreds of daily auctions. It's fun to get on there and check it out. Let them know the fantasy footballers sent you. That's Pristine Auction.
Say the Pristine Auction, the account to make it is free. To bid on things is free. If you don't win, nothing lost.
Yeah, there's no gimmicks. It's just a really, really cool, great company. And we have filled up our studio here with amazing gear from Pristine Auction.
It's not full.
Yeah, you have a Lamar Miller jersey sitting in our
Yes, I do.
studio. Yeah,
Truther.
One of your favorite players, yeah. PristineAuction.com, Pristine, auction.com. All right, let's talk about the Titans. And I think the Titans are one of the most interesting fantasy-relevant teams in football because you have a world of hype that you can write right into that roster. I mean, who doesn't like Marcus Mariota? Who doesn't like that potential and efficiency? Who doesn't love Derrick Henry waiting in the wings behind a super fantasy-relevant DeMarco Murray? Eric Decker arrives. Corey Davis arrives. But the question that I have is, look, how much are they going to pass the ball? Because it has to go up.
Certainly does.
Because that efficiency level in Tennessee was through the roof. This is a team that Marcus Mariota had averaged around 18 receptions a game. You compare that with somebody like Drew Brees, that's 11 less per game than Drew
Completions.
Brees. Completions, yes. What did I say?
Receptions.
Well, that's tough.
His team was
That's
averaging.
tough. He threw and caught. No, yes, you're right. Completions per game. So you're talking about basically Brees having an extra 30%, right? Every single game. So you have to be hyper efficient, or you have to increase passing volume if you think that efficiency was a bit of an outlier. If you had the efficiency of a guy, Nick Foles years ago. Now I'm not comparing him to Nick Foles, but at the time, that efficiency caused people to draft Foles very high. So how much are the Titans really going to pass the ball with all these new weapons, with Corey Davis and Tyrone Taylor, Eric Decker?
There's no way they're going to run the ball at the same clip versus their pass, because you could see they want to take the reins off of Mariota a little bit. You don't go out and spend your top 10 pick on a wide receiver, then your third round pick on a wide receiver, then go get Eric Decker to just continue to be a run the ball team. You're saying as a franchise, we think Mariota is a really good quarterback. We're going to give him the tools to open up a little bit. Now they'll still be. They're not going to say, "Oh, we're not running the ball. We're going to be a pass first team."
Exotic smash
mouth is going to get a little bit more exotic with the passing scheme. So look for the running back. The rushing totals from the running back position to probably go down this coming season.
They average 25 carries a game. They went 9-7. Mariota coming off the injury. You think that they're going to adjust a winning recipe?
No, I don't think they're going to, forcibly adjust. But if Mariota is able to pass the ball easier with better weapons, remember last year his best weapon was Rashard Matthews, and Tajay Sharp. Obviously, the Titans didn't think those were good weapons because they went out and replaced them with three other guys. So I'm just saying, as he succeeds, it's not that they're going to say, "Hey, we're going to run the ball less." It's just passing is more efficient in the NFL. If you need to score points and you need to move the ball, you're going to end up passing more.
And you're saying now they can.
Yes, that's what I'm
saying.
So,
Mike, we talked about Eric Decker earlier. If you compare kind of the proportions of pass run of the Tennessee Titans and the Buffalo Bills, they're very similar. So would you have felt the same level of excitement for Eric Decker if he ended up in Buffalo than if he ended up in Tennessee?
I like him more in Tennessee, and it's not necessarily the volume, because when it comes to fantasy quarterbacks, yeah, I mean obviously it's nice to have a guy on a passing team, but I think efficiency is equally, if not more, important. We've seen quarterbacks like Tony Romo where and Dak Prescott last year, if you're efficient, it doesn't matter, and that you get into positive game scripts for the quarterback, that means that they're scoring points. And maybe in the fourth quarter, then they get to run the clock out with a running back. But being a great quarterback, an efficient quarterback has never hurt a guy like Tom Brady. I mean, he still puts up fantasy points. So I like Eric Decker going to the efficient Mariota. My word of caution for this team is on Mariota himself, where I like the player. I think that he is evolving, and he will be one of the top quarterbacks in the next couple of years. But people got very excited last year when he went on his run, and I wanted to run through the defenses that he played in that 8-week stretch. Miami, and I will also give you these are their ranking in allowing points to a quarterback, fantasy points. Miami 30th, Cleveland 32nd, the Colts 23rd. Jacksonville was pretty solid, they were 6th. Chargers 16th, Green Bay 26th, Indy again, and then Chicago 21st. So they, in that span, he played a top half defense once, and he was the QB 11 that week. I mean, he was absolutely destroying bad defenses. Now, is that bad? No, I want a quarterback who can destroy inferior competition, but I'm not going to allow that stretch to skew me thinking into Mariota has this top 5 potential when the other times when he wasn't in that stretch, he was essentially a sub 24 quarterback.
Yeah, he had the widest.
He had really, really bad games.
He had the widest splits between top half defenses and bottom half defenses. So that is something you need to keep in mind. And when you look to the upcoming season, the first 4 weeks.
I was just about to say, not games that you'd have a guy coming off an injury and be able to put up big numbers in.
Right. He's got the over the first 4 weeks, the 30th according to
Who does he play?
He plays Oakland, Jacksonville, Seattle, and Houston.
Yeah. Which is the 30th
trouble.
out
That's
of 32 as far as against the quarterback position last year. So it might be hard to get off the ground for Mariota. He might be a great trade asset or even a waiver wire pickup when someone gets upset and drops him. If he has back-to-back just albatross games, you're going to be able to get him cheap.
They play the NFC West this year as well. So
Yep.
he gets to play Seattle and Arizona, Los Angeles. So
the final thing I want to talk about for the Titans, unless you guys have something else, but it's Delanie Walker.
Well, I wanted to bring that up. My exact question was, is it fair to predict the demise of Delanie Walker when he was 4th in fantasy in terms of points per game at the tight end position? Anthony Fasano's gone. They drafted a 3rd-round tight end. What do you think about the Delanie Walker demise with Corey Davis, Decker, Walker, and then Matthews breaking out in the second half of the year?
The amount of weapons that they've added is absolutely troublesome for Walker, and he's fine. The problem is you're spending that middle round pick, and here are some tight ends going right around him in the draft. So he's currently the tight end 7 according to Fantasy Football Calculator. Right in front of him, and I'm saying not even around in front of him, Tyler Eifert, and this is PPR, by the way. Tight end 9, Kyle Rudolph. Tight end 10, Hunter Henry. Tight end 11, Zach Ertz. Guys who I think are very intriguing. I think they have at least equal upside to what Walker has. Now, Walker has history if you want to go back and lean on that, but I'm not going to pay a middle round pick for the 7th or 6th tight end. I want a guy who I can draft late and can explode, or I'm just not even going to worry about that position. It's too much of a premium unless I'm getting a top 3 guy.
Yeah, at the end of the year, Delanie Walker will be all right. He'll be a tight end 1, but you won't have felt it through most of the year as he's just kind of this 60 reception type of guy, unless you're talking about, that crazy abnormal year he had 2 years ago.
All right, it's worth noting as well that last year the offensive line in Tennessee was ranked 4th by Pro Football Focus. This year they are currently ranked number 1.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they were 1 last year. They're 4 right now. So
they're
a great offensive line.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts. Last year this was a team that, they could pass the ball. We know the story with Andrew Luck. What's the latest in Andrew Luck and his injury recovery? Do fantasy owners have a reason to be afraid?
I was going to say that we got to talk about the Andrew Luck news of he's starting training camp on the PUP, and which that does not mean he's missing 6 games, by the way. The training camp pup and the in-season pup are very different. If you're on the pup list in training camp, you can be pulled off at any moment. And Stephen Holder, he is a Indianapolis Colts beat reporter. He was attending Chris Ballard's press conference, and Now, Chris Ballard did not say this, and Stephen Holder was very specific that this was not mentioned. But Stephen Holder's take as a reporter, trying to read between the lines, he believes that Andrew Luck may not play at all in the preseason, but he should be ready for week 1. However, a quarterback not getting any preseason time, a little practice time to get things going again with the receivers. Andy, you've been very, very strong on Andrew Luck coming into the season as the Andrew Luck guy this year. Is that any cause for concern for you?
It's cause to pay attention. I don't think the actual playing in the preseason games is going to be the defining factor for any fear that I have drafting Andrew Luck. I think that if he has practice time, if he's trending the right direction, if everything is going towards the beginning of the season, I'm going to be comfortable with him sitting out those games. I don't think that they want to take a chance with the guy that is their franchise in every sense. So it's going to come down to, is he practicing? I don't care if he plays in those games. Right now I'm not adjusting him. Do I want to see him healthy and practicing? Sure. But we've been down this road with injuries before. Taking your time on these quarterbacks, limiting reps, making sure he's healthy. My concern is those 16 games during the regular season. So I want to bring up the running game in Indianapolis,
yes.
And I want to ask this question to you because unlike, Tennessee, who we just talked through having quite a few changes on the offense, adding a number of pieces, it's really not the case in Indianapolis. You didn't see a big splash made at the running back position. Yes, they drafted Marlon Mack, but you have Frank Gore and Robert Turbin, who may be the least sexy duo in the league. Efficient, or not efficient, but producers for fantasy. You don't have a big change at the wide receiver core other than Moncrief being healthy going into a season. You would sign Kamar Aiken. So my question for this is, let's say Frank Gore does hit a wall. What does that look like? What is a break?
The wall comes down, my friend. Frank Gore is not stopped by
well, he
your
runs
wall.
through it. But if at some point he's going to Fred Jackson, okay? He's going to hit the wall where eventually, look, we all made the jokes about it. Fred Jackson, he'll play forever. Well, he's not playing anymore. And if Frank Gore was to hit a wall, how does that play out in fantasy football to you?
They're saying who takes over?
Yeah, what are the
Or
implications?
what does that look like for Frank Gore? What does he become?
I think it's
all of the above. Well, how does it shake out? Does Robert Turbin have a bunch of fantasy relevance? Is Marlon Mack getting first and second down carries somehow?
Yeah, I'll say that even if Frank Gore hits the wall this year, I bet they still have him grind it out. I don't see a changing of the guard coming for this team. However, Robert Turbin has been talked up very frequently this offseason. You hear about Turbin almost as much as I hear positive things about Doug Martin, which yes, that's what a team is supposed to do. You're supposed to talk up someone who's in the back, not your starter. But Robert Turbin, over the final 7 weeks of the season, he got at least one carry inside the 10 every single game. So we lament the touchdown vulture, but Robert Turbin is legitimately turned into a touchdown vulture that the Colts, once they get in close, they want to give the ball to Turbin. And that gives you that cap on Frank Gore because Gore is not going to bust off 30-yard touchdowns with any kind of regularity. Marlon Mack, nice player. He's athletic. He's got some juice, but I don't think he's anything but a change of pace, maybe get some receptions here and there type of guy. So it's Frank Gore or bust for me on this running back crew.
Yeah, we joke that Frank Gore is and always will be the running back 12 because that's kind of where he's finished the last 2 years. But the reality is I moved him down in my rankings in prep for this show because the more that I dive in and look, I think the touchdown opportunities, he will still have touchdown opportunities, but they're not entirely his. And the workload, I just don't believe he's going to be able to have 265 carries. And if he has the 220 carries because of his inefficiency, since he's been a Colt, he's never cracked that 4 yards a carry. He's been at 3.8, 3.7 range, and that's just not going to get it done. He'll have enough volume to be an RB2 on your fantasy team. He's still, he's like the exact opposite of Delaney Walker. To me, his value in where he's going in a draft is going to make sure he's probably on my team and is playing, in that flex position or as my RB2, or if I have to start 3 RBs, he's a great option. but his upside I just don't think is
Yeah,
there even with this offense.
Yeah, this offense is a passing offense. I mean, that's what you have to look to. Bottom third in the league in rushing attempts last year. Their defense was bottom third in almost every major category. So, unless that offensive line improves, which it hasn't really. I mean, do you guys disagree with that? Last year they were ranked 25th. They're in the 20s still now, according to Pro Football Focus.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
This is a team that's going to lean on Andrew Luck. We know the power of T.Y. Hilton in that offense. Dante Moncrief is healthy. I really like him as a value if he can stay healthy, obviously. Kamar Aiken. Here's the last question I want to ask you guys. Only the Chargers averaged more tight end touchdowns per game than the Colts did last year. The Colts averaged 0.8 touchdowns per game from the tight end position. That's 12 total on the year. They also caught 73% of their targets, which was third best in the league. Obviously helps to have Andrew Luck, but you did have efficiency at the tight end position. Dwayne Allen is gone. Jim Doyle.
Jack Doyle?
What did I say?
Jim?
Jack Doyle.
Jim and Jack, it's irreplaceable, really.
Yeah. Jack Doyle was 54% of the offense last year in terms of targets at the tight end position. So,
he's my man.
Is he your man?
He's my man from the Colts offense if I want a tight end. And we have seen just over the years, Andrew Luck can support two tight ends, which is kind of bizarre for fantasy, but Dwayne Allen, because he was a touchdown machine, and Coby Fleener he was fine. But I mean, he's a usable, startable tight end. And it's have Jack Doyle.
That's actually what's printed right under Coby Fleener's his football
Usable?
card. Usable, decent tight end.
Jack
and
Doyle
then they pre-print the 53 receptions.
and Eric Swope. I lean towards Jack Doyle. They gave him the money. I'm going to follow that. And I think that if anybody is going to get
Jack
done
Doyle
at the tight
a
end,
top 5 tight end potential?
No, I don't think so.
but at tight end 1 for sure.
He's got the potential to be
Yeah.
a tight end 1. I don't think he's locked and loaded the way a lot of people
I'm
think
saying he
is.
has that potential.
Some of it's going to come down to Dante Moncrief. I mean, you saw a pretty decent split there when Dante Moncrief was not there. Jack Doyle, when it came to the end zone and the touchdowns, he doubled his output, on an average per game touchdown without Dante Moncrief than when Moncrief was playing. So if Moncrief is back and is healthy, that's where Andrew Luck wants to go. In the red zone, not Doyle. Doyle will still get his, but not at the same clip.
Yeah, I think that's a fair
I have
take.
one question. We didn't even mention his name. He was a first-round pick. Wide receiver, Philip Dorsett. He played on 70% of snaps last year. 70% of all the Colts' offensive snaps. 59 targets. In a pass-first offense with Andrew Luck, how do you only draw 59 targets?
He had that Harry Potter invisibility cloak on. That's rough. That is not confidence from your quarterback.
No. And so I was going to say, do you feel like Aiken's going to take that third wide receiver job, or is it?
I think he should
Aiken's
because
splitting?
Aiken's a good wide receiver. and
Aiken's
Philip
as
Dorsett has not
opposite
shown
from
that.
Philip Dorsett as you could possibly get. He's reliable, less athletic, less of a burner at this stage in his career.
Aiken's pretty athletic. I like him, but I think that Aiken is a nice, very, very cheap. I mean, essentially free in drafts. Just a nice flyer to grab a piece of the Colts
Interesting.
offense.
If
Yeah,
you're
I'm not gonna grab
super
that.
deep, maybe.
But you're not taking him over in a draft. Let's say you had to flex Aiken or Doyle. You're flexing Doyle, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about in the draft. I want to see week 1 what they do. He's probably in my first cut spot. I'm just saying that
I don't know
he
if
takes that job, if Moncrief is not right. Or
Yeah,
if
that's going to
he-
be settled more in camp, I think.
Yeah, and I'm not convinced that the third wide receiver role is as valuable with the way that the Colts, run their packages as it is elsewhere. They he throws the ball to other positions. One very last thing to say, I meant to bring it up on Frank Gore, but when we talk about all the touchdowns, Frank Gore last year had 4 receiving touchdowns. That is very abnormal. The last 5 years prior to that, one of which was with the Colts, he had 3 combined. So if you're just looking to
He
for him
finds
to
a
repeat,
way to end up at RB12, whether
Sure.
you like it or not.
It's not
if he
abnormal.
can't do it on the ground, he may kick a few next year.
he'll do what it takes.
It's not abnormal for Andrew Luck to throw touchdowns to the running back, though. That we've seen that be a prominent role for that offense.
All right, we need to move on to Jacksonville, guys. Look, the CDC was called in. Everybody in Jacksonville was infected with a case of the Bortles last year, and it trickled down. It didn't matter if you were Allen Robinson. It didn't matter if you were T.J. Yeldon. It destroyed you as an offense. Blake Bortles was patently terrible last season.
When you catch the Bortles, it results in a really abnormal elbow throwing motion.
Yeah, that's symptom number one. Then Allen Robinson struggled last year. 2.9 yards after the catch. I thought that was one of the most insane statistics. That's down there in Mike Evans' range, yards after the catch. Only 5.8 yards per target. That was third worst in the league. Allen Robinson, the year before, his big breakout year, you had a high touchdown total, and you had big plays. You had the ability for Bortles and Robinson to connect on some of these deep passes. Last year, guess what percentage of passes over 20 yards were caught?
Oh.
So when Bortles targeted somebody 20-plus yards down the field, what percentage of those passes were
I do
caught?
not know. Give it to me.
7%.
What? What?
So you can say whatever you want about how talented Allen Robinson is, but there was a problem last year, and it wasn't just Allen Robinson dropping passes or, Allen Hearns' injury. This offense, to me, you had 37 attempts a game last year by Blake Bortles.
I was going to say,
how does that?
All that, and yet Blake Bortles was a quarterback one for fantasy football.
He was. But this is a team.
The garbage man can.
Look, if you think I'm just bashing Jacksonville, these two gentlemen next to me will tell you how much I love Jacksonville.
Yes.
I was a Gus Bradley apologist for the majority of my adult life. And yet, I don't know what you're going to see from the upside of the passing offense in Jacksonville this year. They want to be a more defensive team. They have a great defense on paper. You bring in Calais Campbell and other defensive weapons. Great draft. You bring in Leonard Fournette, a strong push towards the running game, towards taking pressure off of 37 attempts a game. So let's say you take 7 attempts a game off of Bortles. That seems reasonable, right? 30 attempts a game. That's still a good chunk. Now you're asking Blake Bortles to be efficient to give you fantasy value, not just a garbage man.
I'm not sure he even knows the definition
of efficient.
Yeah.
No. So
based on your stat of his deep passing, I wanted to look up Pro Football Focus and how they ranked him as a deep passer, and then I caught this: his quarterback rating as a deep passer, 6.4. I've never seen it. I didn't know the numbers could go that low into single digits. Congratulations, Blake. You've done it.
You did it, man.
But here's the reality.
Under 10, they would just write bad.
Here's the reality, though. They picked up his fifth-year option. I think they are
he's
committed.
A quarterback.
I think they are committed to him, and he's
Sure.
going to have the opportunity. Is there any chance it was the shoulder last year, and 2 years ago Blake Bortles is actually he's a good quarterback, and last year he was injured?
Well, I wouldn't say he was good 2 years ago. I would say he was
fantasy-wise. He was
fantasy-wise.
No,
yes.
but as a second-year NFL quarterback,
yes.
I would
Everybody
say he was
said, "Hey, he made a step forward." Absolutely.
That step did not turn into any kind of victories, and
no,
which
but
I'm not going to put all that on a quarterback's shoulder. There's a lot of other pieces, but I don't think he's a good quarterback. And we had this debate for a draft for the Scott Fish Bowl. We were looking at who do we want to have on our team where we're pretty close to locked into this quarterback because the waiver wire is barren.
We're looking between,
and it's Blake Bortles and Carson Palmer. And Andy and I, our first gut instinct of saying why we would take Palmer over Bortles in this type of a league where you're committed, say, I don't know if the Jacksonville Jaguars will be starting Blake Bortles in come week 8.
The head coach, Doug Marrone, first full season. Tom Coughlin running things over there in Jacksonville, committed to the running game. I don't think that historically you have the patience level with Tom Coughlin to let a guy struggle and do what he did last year. If he comes out this year and he's a different player, if the arm motion is fixed, you notice how many times I'm saying the word if, it doesn't make it a good fantasy option.
So 2 players we just talked about that are in such identical situations of 2 years ago. They were great. Last year they stunk. What's going to happen? Who do you guys take if you're on the clock and you're looking at DeAndre Hopkins and Allen Robinson?
Yeah, I'm going to take Allen Robinson in that situation. That comes down to 37 attempts a game last year for Blake Bortles. So, and Doug Marrone. When Doug Marrone took over, Allen Robinson improved in the second half of the season.
Yes, that's true.
He knew how to use him, and I think you saw more of what we came.
Wasn't the quote was essentially, oh, yeah, we started moving him around the formation.
Yeah, they actually started.
You actually did coaching things?
Yeah, you have to see him.
Jeff Fisher was baffled by that comment, by the way.
So, yeah.
No, it's a good question between those two, but I think I would take Allen Robinson in that situation. But it's close.
No, I side there as well, because at least when we talk about those two guys, you know that Allen Robinson has done it with Blake Bortles before, whereas you don't know, DeAndre Hopkins has a bunch of question marks there. Well, that being said, Allen Robinson is being drafted as the 18th wide receiver overall versus the 12th as Hopkins.
Speaking of a guy who has done it before with Blake Bortles, that's Allen Hurns.
Right.
Moving forward, Allen Hurns. When Allen Robinson had his big year, Allen Hurns also had a big year, 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. Last year, through his 7 healthy games to start the year, 31 receptions, 443 yards. Yes, that doesn't sound great, but that's a pace of 70-plus receptions, over 1,000 yards yet again before he had his concussion problems, his hamstring problems. And Marquise Lee had a bit of a breakout. So if it's Allen Hurns or Marquise Lee, where are you leaning on those two guys?
I definitely lean Allen Hurns, because this is not going to be a volume offense, like Andy was saying. Blake Bortles is not going to throw that much, so I'm going with the guy who has more touchdown potential versus needs to be peppered with targets a lot.
I want to be careful. I mean, I didn't say it's not going to be a volume offense. I said that 37 attempts a game is hopefully going to come down. But if their defense can't get it done, you're going to be put in a tough position. I mean,
you can't fold the papers out there. And
I would take Lee in that situation, but I don't have enough confidence in what's happening with Blake Bortles to be on board with any of those guys. I don't want to leave Jacksonville without talking about the number 1 pick in Jacksonville's draft, Leonard Fournette, number 4 pick overall. This is an offensive line last year that ranked 22nd in the league. As of right now, they picked up Cam Robinson in the second round. They lost Luke Jokel, which is great.
It's addition by subtraction.
Yeah, and you have a situation where Leonard Fournette, to me, the eye test, we talk so much about him in the rookie shows, but sometimes we forget to talk about these guys again as we head into the season. One of the best pure combinations of speed and power that I've ever seen coming out of college. You can question the situation, but I think he's going to have a really, really good rookie season. I think they're going to give him every opportunity to be both the face of the franchise and the kind of major cog in this offense. Where do you guys sit on Fournette's upside this year? I know that you've both been more hesitant, maybe because of offensive line play, but what is the ceiling? Well, I mean, what are the possible outcomes for Leonard Fournette?
Ceiling would be a top 5 running back, because he's got that talent, and if you put the over-under at 270 carries, I think I would lean towards the over if they're in enough game scripts to even allow to do that. So the ceiling is through the roof, because his talent is through the roof. I'm a big believer in Leonard Fournette as a football player. I believe he's going to translate to the NFL. The whole hesitation for me is just the offense. The Jacksonville Jaguars offense is not the Dallas Cowboys offense. It's not the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, and recency bias makes a lot of people want to overvalue that number 4 running back pick, especially when people like us say, yeah, he's really talented and he's worth that. I think you're going to have to take the risk when you're in your draft to pull the trigger probably late 3rd round and say, I believe he's going.
Late 3rd?
I think come draft day.
I think it's going to be late 2nd.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's where he's already going on Fantasy Football Calculator.
Yeah,
like 208. Yeah. I mean, his range of outcomes is pretty wide, because I'm with Jason. I believe in the talent, but this is almost identical to Todd Gurley's situation last year. It's a bad team, good defense, but it's a bad team and a bad offensive line. I'm not spending a 2nd-round pick on that running back when behind him is Lamar Miller, and if I wanted to take a running back on a bad team that had a good offensive line, Isaiah Crowell is also going behind him. I have I'm nervous to go in on Leonard Fournette where he's going to end up in drafts, which
You're
is
not
the second
comfortable
round.
with Leonard Fournette as your RB1.
That's a very correct statement.
Okay. All right, I'm going to hold off on having us make division winner picks until later on this offseason.
Ooh,
I don't want to make the call right now.
Sure.
But it should be a battle in the AFC South, no doubt. So if you have other thoughts on these AFC South teams, feel free to tweet us at the FF Ballers. Get in contact with us on Twitter. You can also check out our fantasy football community over at jointhefoot.com. We have community forums. We have community leagues, so Foot Clan leagues with tons of players that are listeners of the show that are committed to playing, so you don't have 2 or 3 people in your league that are kind of tuned out by week 3, but you have a fun, engaging league, and that's what this show is all about, is helping you enjoy your fantasy football season. It's about that journey, not just the destination, but we try to get you that trophy as well. So you guys have any parting words on today's episode?
No, so thank you for supporting the show.
Yeah,
We'll be back
appreciate it.
Thursday.
Make sure you check out Play
If you
Draft.
need somebody to watch your kids, I'm here.
Playdraft.com/ballers for all your best ball needs. And see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers.